There's a knife sheath, a single leather K-bar sheath, left on the bed beside one of the victims, and on the button snap of that sheath was a trace of male DNA. That one small object is what built the entire case against Bryan Kohberger, and in late 2025, when Idaho finally unsealed thousands of pages of files, that sheath was still the center of everything, because even after a confession, the record around it doesn't fully close. So here's what the whole story circles around. 4 University of Idaho students were killed in one house on one November night in 2022. A man pleaded guilty to it in 2025, and in late 2025, the courts released the investigative files and crime scene photos the public had never seen. You'd think release plus confession equals answers. It mostly doesn't. What those files show is a chain of evidence that's almost too clean in places and completely silent in others. So what actually happened inside that house? Moscow, Idaho. A quiet college town on the Washington border, the kind of place where the last murder anyone could remember was years back. The 4 were Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. All young, all connected through school and friendship. They shared a rental house on King Road, a 3-story place packed with roommates. In the early hours of November 13, 2022, 4 of them died. 2 other roommates in the house survived. That detail alone would drive the entire investigation, and it still unsettles people today. Start with what the documents actually establish. According to the probable cause affidavit, one surviving roommate told investigators she woke to sounds. She said she saw a figure in dark clothing and a mask moving through the house toward a sliding door. She described him as not very tall, with bushy eyebrows. That's the record. She didn't call police right away. The full timeline of that morning, why the 911 call came hours later, has been debated ever since. The files released in 2025 add detail, but they don't erase that gap. Now the sheath. Investigators say the K-bar sheath was recovered at the scene, and lab work pulled a single male DNA profile off the snap. They didn't have a suspect for it at first, so they used investigative genetic genealogy, uploading that profile and building a family tree, which eventually pointed toward Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at nearby Washington State University. That method has been challenged in court before, but here it gave them a name. And once they had the name, the phone data and the car started to line up. The car was a white Hyundai Elantra. Surveillance from the neighborhood picked up a vehicle matching it circling the King Road area repeatedly that night, then leaving fast around the time of the killings. Cell records, according to the affidavit, showed Kohberger's phone had connected near the house on multiple prior occasions, then went dark right around the murder window, which prosecutors argued was deliberate. Each piece on its own is circumstantial. Stacked together, they built the state's case. But notice what's still missing from all of it. Here's the core of it, the thing the channel is really about. The evidence can place a car, a phone, and DNA. It can tie a person to a scene. What it cannot do, and what the unsealed 2025 files still cannot do, is explain why. There's no documented connection established between Kohberger and any of the 4 victims. No stated motive in the record. Investigators reportedly could not point to a single reason he chose that house, those people, that night. The files are thousands of pages deep, and that hole sits right in the middle of them. And the crime scene photos, released with the files, made that silence louder, not quieter. I won't describe what's in them, out of respect for four people who deserve better than being a spectacle. What matters is that people expected the images to answer something. Instead, they mostly confirmed what was already known. The manner was violent and fast. The house was ordinary. And the person who did it left behind almost nothing except that one sheath. For a criminology student, some noted, that felt either careless or strange. So the theories. And before I lay them out, if you're the kind of person who needs the record to actually make sense before you can let a case go, subscribe, because that's every video we do here. First theory, the simplest, is that the sheath DNA plus the car plus the phone data is exactly what it looks like, a solid case, and the guilty plea confirms it. Under that reading, there's no deeper mystery, just a crime with a killer who never explained himself. That's the state's position, and the plea supports it. The second theory lives in the gaps. Why leave the sheath but nothing else? Why would a criminology student, someone studying how offenders get caught, make that mistake? Some in true crime forums argue the case leaned heavily on the genetic genealogy, a method the defense fought to examine, and that the tidy narrative outran the messy reality. That's not a claim the killing didn't happen. It's a question about how much the record truly explains versus how much we've filled in. The files don't settle that argument. The third strand is the surviving roommate's account. She heard something, saw a masked figure, and the record shows hours passed before police were called. Critics have used that gap to build all sorts of theories. But the more grounded read is the one trauma researchers describe, that a person waking to something they can't process may freeze, may not act the way we imagine we would. The record doesn't accuse her of anything. It just leaves that morning's timeline as one of the case's quietest, heaviest unknowns. What stays unsettled is the one word everyone wanted and never got. Why? He pleaded guilty, which spared a trial and, with it, spared any moment where a motive might have been laid out and tested in open court. The plea closed the legal case. It did not open the man. The 2025 files gave the public the machinery of the investigation, the DNA, the car, the timeline. But the reason 4 young people died in that house is not written in any of those pages. It may never be. So we're left with a case that's officially resolved and privately permanently open. A knife sheath on a bed, a profile pulled from a family tree, a white car circling a dark street, a confession that answered the question of who and refused the question of why. The files are unsealed now. You can read them. And when you finish, that same silence is still sitting there at the center. Next time, a phone call that reached a house nobody had lived in for 2 years, and the voice on the line that shouldn't have existed.